I'm an attorney. I'm an administrative law judge at the Kansas Office of Administrative Hearings.
Very
So we hear administrative appeals on behalf of about 30 or 33 different state agencies. So it's not quite the same thing as like a district court judge,
mhm.
in the Shawnee or Douglas County courthouse with black robes hearing criminal and family law cases.
Right.
We're very narrow to just administrative issues. And so before that, though, I worked for the Kansas Department for Aging and Disability Services as a
Mhm.
litigation attorney, staff attorney for about 4 years. And then prior to that, about 6.5 years doing family, criminal, and juvenile law at a Kansas Legal Services office in Emporia. So I graduated law school in 15.
So why did you like what got you interested in religious studies? Why did you decide to join the program?
The honest answer is I took a religious studies course as one of like the electives you could pick. And it was just a lot of fun. I just remember being really engaged with it. What do people believe and why? How did these beliefs come to be, right? We have the actual faith story, which is that, this man was born from a virgin. This guy was
Mhm.
born from the side of his mother. Muhammad flew on a horse. And then there's really the historical version of, okay, well, let's take off the faith glasses and say, how did this all come together? That sort of historical science just fascinated me. And so when
Mhm.
you had to pick a major, I kind of just picked one that I wanted to learn about.
So you said as you progressed along in the program, when you get to your junior, senior year, you start doing like capstone projects or like honing in on a
Mhm.
specific idea. What was that like for you? Like what interested you? What did you hone in on?
For me, my focus was predominantly new religious movements.
Okay.
Things like paganism, Wicca, totally new religious movements, what we might even refer to kind of pejoratively as cults, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Hare Krishnas and the influx of Eastern spiritual traditions that came to America when the immigration laws changed substantially in like the 60s and 70s.
Hmm.
And then you had like the Rajneeshis and all of this other esoteric Eastern movements, the Buddhist movements, the Soka Gakkai and Nichiren Buddhism. If people don't know who they are, they're kind of like the Jehovah's Witnesses of Buddhism. And they're actually wonderful people. But for me as a student, when I went and took these courses on Islam and some Christianity, Old Hebrew scriptures with Dr. Marecki, absolutely loved it. It was very historical. Why was this written the way it was written? The historical stuff about the major religions really fascinated me, but I also felt like everything's really been studied when it comes to Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Like, what more is there for me to say that someone else hasn't already said? And so
Hmm.
I wanted to learn about new things that I had no real exposure to as kind of a military brat from a traditional, you know, Christian white family, right? And so Eastern religions and new religious movements. So I also took a directed study course in the Shakers. That was phenomenal. Absolutely appreciated that. And then participated also in I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard of it, the Religion in Kansas Oral History Project. I don't think they take recordings anymore, but back when I was in school in 2012, 2010, they had a oral history project where students would go and interview as class, people from different religious groups or faith traditions, and then we'd record that in like an oral history catalog. And so you can
Hmm.
still go online and find all these different interviews that people have done with different folks throughout different parts of the state. But that was kind of what I honed in on, was new religious movements. Had a lot of fun with that.
Was there any like skills that the program helped build for getting into law school?
Yes, I mean, when you actually take something called the LSAT, the
Hmm.
equivalent of your grad student exam or your NCLEX, your nursing exam, your boards to be a doctor. I mean, there's certain things you have to do before you can pass go to get into grad school. And for law, a lot of it is logic, right? It's reading, it's analysis, it's logic, and it's attention to detail. And
Hmm.
so the type of academic program in religious studies where you really sit and write and grapple with ideas, logic, philosophy, things to that effect. Really, I felt in hindsight, I don't think I really appreciated as a student until, I got through law school and was much older. In hindsight, I can see how that made getting into law school and dealing with the academic part of that so much more conducive. Because if I had just been a traditional person who studied, like, I don't know, biology, like science is great, but can you write a 10-page paper making an argument
Right.
about something and applying cases and facts to it? And so I feel like that was really beneficial when I went in there in a way that I didn't appreciate at the time, especially now with the type of work I do as a presiding officer, right? I'm hearing cases, applying the law to them, and then writing an order to reflect that.
Hmm.
And so I feel like all that writing in undergrad has paid off for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree. A lot of the writing that I've done, it has changed like in just a year has fundamentally changed the way
Mhm.
I write.
Yeah.
So it's so impactful, the developments and being able to read and write effectively.
Because there's so much analytical and writing skills that the religious studies degree program kind of requires you to do, that doing
Mhm,
something like becoming a lawyer kind of goes hand in hand with some of those skills you learned, right? Maybe not the knowledge isn't entirely transferable from, that field to that field, but kind of prepared me for a different type of learning when I went to law school in
mhm.
hindsight.
So you say like going in and doing religious studies helped develop skills that were like cross applicable to law?
Yeah, absolutely. Reading, I mean, in law school, you're going to take a class called Legal Analysis, Research, and Writing. It's like required. Your first year of law school is basically going to be the same set of courses for every student. There might be
Mhm,
some variants where you can choose to take certain things from, a handful, but you're all basically taking the same classes. And so religious studies kind of taught me, through the various classes I did. And then I did take some higher level courses like my senior and junior year where I really got to get into the thick of something that just interested me, right?
mhm,
But to be able to grab your sources, read them, review them, condense it into a paper, condense it into an argument, and be able to take different perspectives and kind of apply, as we would say in the law, you apply the facts to the law, or you apply the law to the facts. But in religious studies, you're applying, reason and analysis to whatever it is you're looking at and studying.
mhm,
And so that absolutely was very transferable in terms of being able to digest the information and then put it out there. And not just in terms of writing, right? Because,
mhm,
being in undergrad and being in law school is very kind of theoretical in many senses, right? You're not actually, by and large, on the street doing the job you would do when you graduate and get your degree, right?
mhm,
So a lot of it is kind of practice for when you're actually dealing with whatever it is you're actually going to end up doing in the workforce. But just being able to get those different perspectives and viewpoints and be able to hear that, that ended up being a good personal characteristic to have when I was actually doing street law and I'd had, family law, criminal law, juvenile defendants, and people you've got to talk to, counsel, understand, not judge, and then put on the right path. And so
mhm.
just gave a lot of different perspectives, but I did feel that it was very transferable, and I ended up going to grad school.
Program itself, when you went through the religious studies program at KU, do you have any like favorite memories, any fond events or experiences that you had in your undergrad career that you would like to share?
Yeah, I feel like I have a memory. Um, this was really cool. I took a class with Dr. Marecki, and to be honest, I can't remember which course it was, but it was an opportunity to be able to really hear from someone who's just not teaching you out of book, but not teaching you out of a book, but teaching you about something they've researched and something that he physically got his hands on. He had a student years ago who told him, "Hey, my dad got this, relic of a scroll from Egypt or something that his parents got when they went over there, and they got it from like a bazaar or some vendor on the street. Would you like to take a look at it?" And Dr. Marecki was sort of like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever. I'll take a look at it. It's probably BS, right? Just like gunk." But then starts to look at it, starts to look at the scroll, and then, as he's telling us in class, it's like, okay, this is actually starting to look authentic. This is looking old. This is looking like it's telling a story. And so he actually was able to get them to donate that scroll. I think it's at the that museum kind of behind where the main campus is. And so, that's something that he actually got and was able to study. And I can't remember, I think we actually went to the museum as a group and we
Mhm.
actually saw it because it was in like a preserved case and stuff, not the sort of
Sure.
thing you throw out in class. But that was cool because it was less let's write a paper and talk about things, which is a lot of what religious studies and philosophy scholars are going to do, right?
Mhm.
Talk about theories and ideas. It's in the realm of thought. But to see this thing, it's like, okay, you could actually get into this field and you could do more than just talk about ideas and try to create a new idea about something
Mhm.
we've all talked about ad nauseum. There are things to study and see, to learn from that is still new, right? That was cool.
I have one more question written down. Um, and if you have anything else you want to talk about, we can hit it up after. But this is my
Mhm.
last prepared question.
Yeah.
Um, it like as briefly as possible, would you recommend the program to prospective majors? If so, why?
Yes, if you want to learn about religion, whether it is because you want to become, person of the cloth, join a seminary or go to preschool or whatever tradition
Mhm.
you have, if you want to learn about the history of tradition, right? What are these different things that an ancient text is referring to and where did that come from? It's the cultural context of what they're writing and why, helps you to understand what it means for you in the present. I mean, it is a phenomenal program to not only learn, but to be able to learn about different things that you might have never experienced. And especially for those who are going to grad school, even if it's unrelated to religious studies, like in my case, I went to law school, you're going to develop analytical and comprehensive skills that are going to translate later in your life, right? And there are so many things you can do with a religious studies degree that don't necessarily require you to go be a priest, right? You can
Mhm.
go to law school, you could become any number of other professions. You could become a professor, you could become an academic. You could teach and study abroad, right? I mean, you can do so much more than just sort of pop a collar on and go to church. I think there's more to it than that. But if you're looking at going to religious studies, there isn't a better school than KU because of the selection of courses the program offers, and also the multicultural community you're in will allow you to have immersion in any religious or faith tradition that interests you. And also the opportunity to do real substantive field work. It's up to you to kind of make your own course and to make your college experience meaningful. But if you work it right, you won't just be sitting in a room with a book behind a desk. You can actually get out and learn new things and be active with your learning.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Do you have any questions or concerns
No,
before
no,
we
thanks.
start
Good
off?
luck. It was
Of
nice to
course.
meet you, kid.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too.
All
Have a
right.
great rest of your week.
Take care, Riley.
You too.